Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Think Different podcast. This is Will. I know it's been, again, some time since I've been here, but even the last episode we talked about, which was everything that was happening with WWDC, a lot of things have changed again in my life. If you go back to episode 117, we did an episode called Where We've Been, and we had a lot of things going on with a lot of different problems. So first off, Frank had COVID, and there was a lot. We went down for vacation. There were a lot of issues going on. So, one of the things we talked about was my wife's mother having a very serious medical issue, which seemed to be a kidney issue. And I'm sorry to report that she passed away about 3 weeks after we were down there in Florida, and it came as a complete shock to us. It's really rough to know that the last memory I have of Carol is her on the floor, and I'm putting her on the bed and trying everything I can to make sure she's comfortable or try to even save her. And unfortunately, it just didn't work in our favor. And it's been a rough couple months. So when that happened, obviously I had to go down to Florida. That's where we were. So we went down to Florida for hopefully a memorial service. And of course, there's a hurricane coming. And it's not just any hurricane. This is a Category 4 hurricane coming to the coast. And it was pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, we were on the other side. We were in Daytona Beach, just so you know. So Hurricane Ian was coming from the west to the east. So being in Daytona, I wasn't exactly 100% concerned because of the direction it was coming in. But the biggest thing was we had these plans. Like, it was going to be like a Friday or a Saturday. We were supposed to have like a memorial service with her family that was down in Florida. That was one of the reasons we came down, other than being with their family. But now we have to deal with this hurricane coming. So I'm there with my wife, my son, who's 21 months. Obviously he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know anything's different. We tried to make everything as normal as possible. And he was a good kid while we were down there, But there was a lot of stress going on because we weren't sure what the storm was going to be like. And down there she has her brother and she has her stepfather, who they've been married since 1991, so basically her father. And, her brother already, going back to last episode, if you haven't listened to it, went through a lot of stuff already prior to this. And he is... he's on his own. He's unmarried. He's he's almost in his 50s, and his mother was his life, man. That was like everything to him, and I felt so bad for him. It's like, at least for my wife, she has my family up here and has like some family that she sees, but mostly it's my family. And, down there was her mother, her father, her brother, and she doesn't really see him more than once a year, maybe, if she's lucky. Even when we had our son, they came up a little more often, but because of medical reasons, and especially with her brother having some medical issues, it's very hard to leave him by himself. And now all this is going on top of a hurricane coming. So we bunkered down. The one thing I will say is that she prepared, Carol prepared us. She had like so much frozen food. It was there was so much food in the house. I couldn't believe it. Like, you could survive a month, literally a month, in that house with food there available for you. So if one thing was for sure, we were prepared. So the storm was going to hit us around Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday. So, we were, there were family down there with us as well who were kind of, helping us mourn for this loss. And, we're kind of trying to be a family together. And, the storm, was coming the night before. We were all hanging out. We were kind of enjoying ourselves for the time as we could with her family, and I'm just sitting there like, dealing with a lot of stress with everything going on. And then the storm comes, and it's a bad storm. Like, this brought back Hurricane Sandy vibes. Based on me watching the outside, I was literally outside watching these like rain, like winds of rain overnight, just like hitting the house. And it was loud, really loud. And I couldn't believe how bad it was hitting. And it was scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like, all you need is a tree to come down right now on here. But I could see, some plants. She has a lot of plants in her yard, and the pine trees are bending over. And then I'm seeing far away. I see a carport literally down off of the house, which is crazy. And then the next door neighbor is having these like shears of wind of steel like whipping in there on top of her roof, and so that's becoming a problem. Even inside of our home, while we were there was a wetness coming off the floor, and I don't know if that was something that had been there previously. It didn't look like it was related to the storm, but it was emphasized with the storm. So we're gutting it out, and there's no phone signal, guys. There is literally nothing. And we still had power even from the first night, so we're going into Wednesday morning. We still had power. So it was kind of surprising that we were still good. Apparently, other people in the neighborhood were not having power. We're trying to contact her brother because her brother is at his home. He's about 5 minutes away. And the biggest fear he had was flooding because they're in a flood zone. And he's sending us pictures in the morning. And we were talking like 11:30. You could see the water coming up, touching his car already in the car. Like, it's touching the bottom of his tires. And you could see his whole neighborhood is flooded. Like, the rain was coming down probably like an inch every hour. I would say that's how often it was coming down. And there's no drainage system. I don't think they even had a drainage system. And that was the last contact we had with him at 11:30. And then our power went out, and we literally had no way to communicate with anybody. My wife's phone, for some reason, my iPhone, which is like the iPhone 13 Pro, could not reach anybody at all. I was dead. And my mother's worried about me because she can't contact me, and I'm down there, along with her grandson. And the only person that somehow has a signal in a specific spot by a window was my wife. And she was able to make calls, but barely. And, we had to, and now because we had no power, we had to keep everything kind of tight on calling people. I even started driving out when the storm was like in the afternoon, and there was nobody. The storm was starting to pass right about that time, and I went outside. I drove around. I couldn't believe the amount of damage that had happened. There was a tree literally down the street where I was driving, and I saw a squirrel there, so I took a video of it, and just to see the squirrel just hanging out in a tree on the road, just like chilling. And then I started driving around, and I couldn't believe the amount of damage from which is supposed to be a tropical storm by the time it came to us, how badly the damage was. There were trees down everywhere. There were carports off. There was just a lot of things going on, and that was like really scary. So we finally got in touch with my brother-in-law, and he has 8 inches of water in his home. So if you really think about this, there is 3 major events in his life where he almost lost his life because he lost pints of blood. His mother dies. And within the same week of her mother dying, his house is flooded 8 inches, including his car. And can you imagine that amount of incidents that are happening like this, especially when your mother was your best friend, and they saw each other every day, and now this is what you got to deal with. It's a really hard thing to take in, and for someone to take in that much pain and suffering in the amount of time that he had it. And unfortunately, with all the damage and everything that was going on, there was not really many food places open at the time. We couldn't really celebrate Carol's life, so we went home after a week. We tried to get a flight home. My cousin, her cousin Brienne was helping us on the ride home, and she actually booked the tickets. And thank God she booked them the night before the storm, because I think we would have been screwed. The airport was just jam packed because people were just stuck. A lot of flights were canceled, and people couldn't get on flights because other people booked flights. So it's like, it's really tough to get out of Florida right now at that time. And that's, we came home, and now they're trying to adjust their new life. My father-in-law is by himself in a home. His whole life was his wife. He has no friends here, no family here. So there, it's like, I really, if I had my way, I wish they both would be up here, but I understand that they just can't leave their life like that. And it's really put a damper on a lot of things. It's like you really, it just felt bad because my son will never know his grandma, even though there are photos of them together and videos of them together. It was just too soon. And especially that this was going to be her only grandkid. It just wasn't the right time. And it's hard to try to figure out why. Especially with all these incidences going on at the same time. It wasn't just, this event. It was the hurricane. It was my wife's surgery. It was my son getting really sick, and, her brother almost dying. And then now you add a flooded home on top of it. It's a lot of stress, pain, and it's like, that's what, if you watch our videos or our podcast and you realize that we haven't been up to it, it's really because of me. I have been, I try to put a couple videos out of numbers and stuff like that, and we really do appreciate all the feedback people give us, but the motivation is really hard right now with a lot going on. And I'm recording this on the day it would have been her 73rd birthday. So I really hope people can understand, what I'm going through a lot right now. And I want everyone to know that, we're going to continue the podcast. We do as many episodes as we can. I really do wish I was doing more. It's just really hard right now to try to fit all this in, on top of me running my video business, which I fell behind on because of all the things that are going on. So that's another added thing that I have to try to get done, and I haven't been able to because of different events going on. So I want to just want to thank everybody for anyone that has any thoughts, prayers, or wishes. We do appreciate it from my family right now. We're going to do everything we can to keep the podcast going, but if you find this to be a little bit of a break, since from now to we have the holidays coming up, we'll definitely do some stuff during the holidays. It's kind of a slow time right now. Apple doesn't have much going on. The iPhone got released, the AirPods got released, and there are definitely things I want to get. I think the AirPods Pro 2 I definitely want to get, but I got to get motivated to do it. So thank you guys very much for listening to me, hearing my story, and when I say I love every single one of you, I totally do. And I thank you guys. Bye-bye.